So you finally decided to start using AI either in your business or in your workflow or in your personal capacity. Obviously, with the influx of AI, the disruption of ChatGPT and Claude comes a lot of new influencers and kind of like know-it-alls out there. I need to give credit where it's due. I think most of them actually mean well and maybe build some cool things along the way. However, to make it applicable, there are a couple of concerns and things that I would recommend from giving you a couple of tips here today. The advice, however, is so fixated on prompting quality that it seems that the presenters or influencers forgot the backlog of massive persistent memories. Sure, prompting quality is everything. Back and forth communication is very important, but before committing to a specific LLM like ChatGPT or Claude and just getting frustrated with bad quality or worse, good yet inconsistent quality or AI slop, you need to remember a couple of things. This is from someone who understands business logic and works to solve business problems on a daily basis. When I look at ourselves, before we even start working on AI automations with clients or bringing new automation in, there are so many things we work with first in order to actually work towards anything. Now, here's a couple of my tips. Number one, LLMs are like your best varsity teacher. Now, think back to varsity or to school and think about, those knowledgeful, amazing, talented people out there with all the answers. Now, imagine texting them at this very moment, and they are kind of like forced to give you a reply. Not forced, but they will. The answer is they will give you a reply based on your question. That is exactly what chatting to an LLM does. It's the collective industry knowledge and giving you information based on that. Now, it will be good advice that they give you and factually correct. How well do you think it will be applicable to your actual business or your actual life as it stands now? Now imagine texting the same or different professors, the same thing over and over again. The type of answers, although not non-contradicting, will be inconsistent. The results will sometimes be great, sometimes be good, but most of the time relevant to the greater audience and not the individual and their businesses. It becomes an inconsistent mess. Prompting trains them. Yes, you can text back and forth to them and tell them, no, professor, this is what I mean. No, this is what I mean. No, I mean this and this. But prompts should lead to the backdrop narrative first before moving to the task. Things your prompting should be focusing on initially should not be task related. It should be aimed at creating a trustworthy backdrop. You should be focusing on giving it the purest, most narrow bucket first. Things like building persistent memory, guardrails, documents and resources, connectors, data, human behaviors, roles, the extended rulebook. Those are the first things that you're prompting to your LLM should be creating. Next, I would say focus on general branding. Yes, sure, it can be visuals, but it might just be language style, wording style, grammar, something you'd understand, and most importantly, something your audience will relate to without knowing it's AI. It should outsmart your logic, not your presence. Then comes the setup on the foundation of your so-called sandbox or knowledge. Then only you move on to creating agents, prompting agents what to do, creating loops, the orchestration, meaning what agent needs to work in what order with who, the architecture. And a personal tip that I love to give in this is to create a actual mind map that you feed into your LLM and tell them this is the logic as you see it in your mind at this stage. The next step I want to say is stop trying to innovate and automate for the general sake of it because everyone's doing it. Always start with tasks that frees up time. You will actually need your own time back to actually audit whether it's fully functional and ready to sign off. The next thing that I love to do inside my prompting kind of like foundation is to build in reviews and make time to leave reviews. I'm talking about let your LLM, your Claude, your ChatGPT actually send you a survey after each task, and remember to build your results into persistent memory. Remember those persistent memories and guardrails that I was talking about? This allows you to review the quality of your automation by prompting it to survey you after a set period. Task, goal expectation, then reverse engineer it. Before you move into a task, remember this. Set out what you expect the results to be? What do you expect? What is a win result? What is a loss? And you would want to, especially a loss that you would like to avoid, start with that and work backwards to do the setup properly. Don't go for complex reasoning when you don't have time to review the work. Free up your time first, then solve your problem. Then solve the company's problem, and then scale. Always ask for a process document, update on memory, and a logic flow chart. It's very credits heavy, but helps you to do a very proper audit on your system. And understand this. Understand that your problems might really not be that complex. The best and latest model might not seem like the best option, or it might seem like the best option, but it isn't always. Select the tools and resources that connect well in an ecosystem and integrates with one another. And then another tip that I want to give is include your LLM in every brainstorm session, even if it's not a task. You can use tools like Whisperflow, Google Docs, run a loop to read it once a week. AI needs to be your second brain. Then you need to understand the limitations, locally versus cloud-based. Remember, when you build those persistent memories, it needs to gather those information from some place. Remember that you see more of one tool over the other, not because it's better, but because media has become interest media. You fall in the trap that once you explore something like Claude, all you will see is Claude. And it doesn't mean that the one is better than the other. So let's get practical. Starting out with AI. My personal approach to ChatGPT and my personal approach to Claude. I want to give you guys a couple of tips that I think will be helpful in a very practical solution. So when I set up any one of the two, the first thing that I do is I give it a full introduction about myself, who I am, what I do, where I live, what my market is, what my interests are, what my hobbies are, everything like that. Next, I start building persistent memory of everything that I am. I give it access to my Gmail. I give it access to my documents, to my company resources, to my contracts, to my policies, to everything. And I instruct it to read it. Not only read it, but also save it to have a knowledge base from who I am. On the brand element, I'll start to tell it, listen here, go and audit all my previous conversations to clients, because you have my clients' details, or just my emails, to see my writing style, my lingo, the grammar I use, and everything like that. Up next, I go inside my company and I start with something basic that takes up a lot of my time. Remember, the first assignment should be to save up your time. Usually what I do is I just start with my emails and WhatsApps, and I tell Claude or ChatGPT, listen here, you connected with this, you understand my logic, you understand who I am, triage this for me based on a certain couple of things, right? Based on urgency, based on responses, based on tasks, based on knowledge, everything like that. From the triage, I actually review it based on the quality that it triaged everything for me, and I allow it to draft replies, not send them, to draft them. Remember, I freed up my time by filtering everything out. Now I've got the time available to go and check up on its work on the drafts that it replied, the drafts of content, the drafts of everything. Then only I start by giving it some space to automate that. The first thing that I do is any repeatable basic administrative task or overview that I have in my company is to solve that. Not all at once, but please guys, stop thinking that it's only about prompting. Prompting first needs to be the setup, the guardrails, everything like that. And then only you would have that to move forward. We understand a business from a human point always first. We define a goal, then we look for the AI gaps to buy back time, then only do we build MVPs to lower subscription costs, and then only do we focus on operations. AI is very, very important. The number one skill that keeps you relevant today is AI. If you're coming straight from university, the first skill that people would be looking at is if you are tech savvy with AI. If you're in a company, the person that's coming in with the same skill set, same experience, but with AI will replace you. And if you're someone that is on the brink of being, on the brink of resigning, or anything like that, and you thought about consulting back to your company, which is a major sector in the world right now, that becomes impossible if you are not AI ready with that. So build your AI, adopt your AI, get into that, but stop following the interest media of just back and forth prompting without understanding that there's a certain structure and skill set that you can do so that you stop getting that inconsistent results, good quality yet non-appropriate or non-applicable, and that's outside the scope of your work and your environment and everything. So it's all about that prompting on the persistent memory, the guardrails, the setup, the tools, the resources, understanding what connects with what, and then only move to anything task related. I see it when we work with companies and allowing them to hire new staff. We don't look at any university qualifications up until the last point. We look at culture and we look at adaptability and adaptability in the AI sector on all things that's there before we even look at is someone actually legally qualified to do the job. And I hope that helps. It's a short video. It's maybe just out there, but I feel that maybe, just maybe, you are looking too deep into prompting or specific LLM that you forget that this prompting should be aimed at the setup first before you actually even touch a task.